close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're floating in absolute darkness, not the darkness of a room at night, but the complete absence of everything. No air, no space, no time, no possibility of anything existing. Now imagine something appearing in this nothingness, growing larger and larger. What is it growing into? This question has haunted humanity's greatest minds, and today, we're going to explore not just the physics, but the profound psychological impact of confronting the most disturbing truth about our universe. What I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you perceive reality itself. It will challenge every intuitive understanding you have about existence, and by the end of this journey, you'll never look at the space around you the same way again. Before we dive into this mind-altering exploration, I need to know, where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment below telling me your location and what time it is where you are. Are you watching this at 3 a.m. unable to sleep because questions like this keep you awake? Or maybe you're on your lunch break trying to wrap your head around existence itself? I want to build a global map of consciousness, people all around our expanding universe thinking about the very nature of reality together. The psychological foundation, why this question tortures us. The human brain evolved to understand a world of boundaries, containers, and limits. When our ancestors looked at a river, they could see where it began and where it ended. When they examined a cave, they understood it had walls, a ceiling, and an entrance. This fundamental need to understand spatial relationships is hardwired into our neural architecture. But the universe presents us with a problem that breaks our evolutionary programming. We're asking our Stone Age brains to comprehend something that has no precedent in our biological experience. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. The mental discomfort we feel when confronted with information that contradicts our fundamental beliefs about reality. The question, what is the universe expanding into? Triggers something deeper than mere curiosity. It activates our most primal fears about the unknown and our place within it. When we can't visualize or comprehend something, our minds automatically fill in the gaps with assumptions that often make the reality even more disturbing than it actually is. Consider this psychological experiment. Right now, try to imagine absolute nothingness. Not darkness, darkness is still something. Not empty space, space itself is something. Try to conceive of the complete absence of existence itself. Notice what happens in your mind. Most people report feeling anxious, disoriented, or even slightly nauseous when attempting this mental exercise. This isn't accidental. We're confronting the limits of human consciousness itself. The intuitive trap, why our logic fails us. Every day, we experience expansion within containers. A balloon expands into the air around it. A city expands into the countryside. Water expands when it freezes, pushing against the boundaries of its container. Our entire understanding of growth and expansion depends on the concept of something moving into somewhere else. This creates what I call the container fallacy, the automatic assumption that everything must exist within something else. It's so fundamental to our thinking that we rarely question it. When someone tells you the universe is expanding, your mind immediately asks the same question. Into what? But here's where the psychology becomes fascinating. This question reveals something profound about human consciousness. We cannot think outside the framework of spatial relationships because spatial thinking is the foundation of how our brains process reality. We don't just think in space, we think with space. It's the invisible architecture of all human cognition. The inability to conceptualize expansion without a container creates a unique form of existential anxiety. Unlike other fears that we can rationalize or overcome, this touches something deeper, the very structure of how we make sense of the world. When that structure fails, we experience what philosopher Thomas Nagel called the view from nowhere. A terrifying glimpse of reality from a perspective our minds aren't equipped to handle. The philosophical minefield, ancient wisdom meets modern terror. Throughout history, brilliant minds have wrestled with questions of infinity and boundless existence, often with disturbing psychological consequences. The ancient Greek philosopher Zeno created paradoxes that challenged our understanding of space and motion, leading to mathematical breakthroughs but also driving some thinkers to the edge of madness. In medieval times, scholars who contemplated the infinite nature of God often reported experiencing what they called divine vertigo, an overwhelming sense of smallness and confusion when trying to grasp boundless existence. This wasn't mere intellectual humility. It was a genuine psychological phenomenon that could lead to depression, anxiety, and in extreme cases, complete mental breakdown. The 19th century mathematician George Cantor, who developed our modern understanding of mathematical infinity, suffered multiple nervous breakdowns while working on his theories. He once wrote, "I see it, but I don't believe it," referring to his own mathematical proofs about infinite sets. The psychological toll of confronting concepts that exist beyond human intuition is real and measurable. Modern neuroscience helps us understand why these concepts are so psychologically challenging. The default mode network in our brains, the system responsible for self-awareness and spatial reasoning, literally cannot process certain aspects of cosmic reality. When we try to force it to do so, we experience a kind of cognitive overload that manifests as anxiety, confusion, or what some researchers call cosmic vertigo. The community of confused minds. I want to pause here and create something beautiful together. In the comments below, share the moment you first realized that the universe might not work the way you thought it did. Was it a specific book, conversation, or maybe a sleepless night staring at the stars? What emotions did you feel? Fear? Wonder? Confusion? Reading through these shared experiences of cosmic awakening, you'll realize you're not alone in feeling overwhelmed by these concepts. There's something comforting in knowing that millions of other minds across the globe have experienced the same vertigo when confronting the true nature of reality. The scientific revolution, when physics broke psychology. For centuries, humans lived with the comforting assumption that the universe was static and eternal, a fixed stage upon which the drama of existence played out. This worldview provided psychological stability. The universe was like a vast room, and we were simply examining its contents. Then came Edwin Hubble's observations in the 1920s, which shattered this comfortable illusion. The universe wasn't just changing, it was growing, expanding, carrying galaxies away from each other at incredible speeds. This discovery created what we might call the first truly modern existential crisis. The psychological impact was immediate and profound. If the universe is expanding, our minds automatically demand to know, expanding into what? The scientific answer that space itself is expanding, not expanding into anything, is so counterintuitive that even physicists struggle with its implications. Consider the rubber sheet analogy often used to explain cosmic expansion. Imagine ants walking on a balloon as it's being inflated. From the ant's perspective, other ants are moving away from them, but they're not walking into new territory, the territory itself is growing. The balloon isn't expanding into the room around it from the ant's perspective because they can only perceive the two-dimensional surface of the balloon. But here's what makes this psychologically devastating: we're the ants. We're trapped in a three-dimensional existence trying to understand a phenomenon that operates in dimensions we cannot perceive or imagine. The expansion isn't happening into anything because the very concept of into requires a perspective we don't possess. This realization creates what psychologists call perspectival vertigo, the disturbing awareness that our viewpoint is fundamentally limited and potentially meaningless in the context of larger reality. It's not just that we don't know something, It's that our entire way of knowing might be inadequate. The dark energy revelation, when expansion accelerates terror. Just when physicists thought they understood cosmic expansion, another discovery emerged that made the psychological implications even more disturbing. The expansion of the universe isn't just continuing, it's accelerating. Something called dark energy is pushing the fabric of space apart at an ever-increasing rate. This acceleration introduces a new psychological horror. The universe isn't just expanding into nothingness, it's doing so with increasing violence. The space between galaxies is growing faster and faster, driven by a force that makes up roughly 68% of everything that exists, yet remains completely invisible and incomprehensible to us. Imagine discovering that your house isn't just haunted, but that the ghost is getting stronger every day. Dark energy is the cosmic equivalent, an invisible presence that dominates our universe while remaining completely beyond our understanding or control. The psychological impact of living in a reality dominated by incomprehensible forces cannot be overstated. The acceleration also introduces the concept of cosmic loneliness on an unimaginable scale. In the far future, galaxies will be so far apart that beings living in one galaxy will see nothing but darkness when they look into space. The expansion will have carried everything beyond the reach of light itself. We are living in a cosmic golden age of visibility, and it's ending faster every moment. This temporal aspect of expansion adds another layer of psychological complexity. We're not just dealing with spatial concepts that break our minds, we're confronting a future in which the universe becomes an even more alien and isolated place than it already is. The multiverse escape hatch, when one infinity isn't enough. Faced with the psychological burden of a universe expanding into nothingness, some scientists have proposed an even more mind-bending possibility: the multiverse. Perhaps our universe isn't expanding into nothing, but into a larger structure containing countless other universes, each with their own physical laws and dimensional properties. At first glance, this might seem comforting. Finally, an answer to the question of what the universe is expanding into: it's expanding into a larger cosmic structure. But the psychological relief is short-lived because the multiverse hypothesis creates an infinite regression of the same question. What is the multiverse expanding into? What contains the thing that contains our universe? The multiverse concept also introduces what philosophers call cosmic insignificance anxiety. If there are infinite universes with infinite variations of reality, then nothing we do or think or feel has any ultimate meaning. Every possible version of your life exists somewhere else. Every decision you make has been made differently by another version of you in another universe. Some people find this liberating. If everything happens somewhere, then nothing really matters, so we might as well enjoy the ride. But for many others, the multiverse represents the ultimate existential nightmare: existence without meaning, consciousness without purpose, love without permanence. The psychological impact varies dramatically based on personality type and philosophical disposition. Those with a high tolerance for uncertainty might find the multiverse concept fascinating. Those who derive meaning from uniqueness and permanence often experience profound depression when seriously contemplating infinite realities. Quantum mechanics: when reality becomes probability. The expansion of the universe becomes even more psychologically disturbing when combined with quantum mechanical principles. At the smallest scales, reality isn't made of solid, predictable matter but of probability waves and quantum fluctuations. The universe isn't just expanding into nothing. It's expanding as a constantly shifting web of possibilities. Imagine trying to map a landscape that changes every time you look at it. This is essentially what physicists face when studying cosmic expansion at the quantum level. The very act of observation changes what's being observed, making objective reality a moving target. The psychological implications are staggering. If the expanding universe is fundamentally probabilistic rather than deterministic, then even our most basic assumptions about cause and effect become questionable. We're not just dealing with expansion into nothingness, we're dealing with expansion of nothingness that might not even be consistently nothing. Quantum mechanics also introduces the observer effect into cosmic expansion. In some interpretations, conscious observation plays a role in determining reality. This raises the terrifying possibility that the universe's expansion might somehow depend on beings like us observing and thinking about it. We might not just be passengers in an expanding cosmos, we might be unwitting participants in its creation. The psychological burden of potentially being responsible for cosmic expansion, even unconsciously, adds another layer of existential weight to these concepts. It's one thing to feel small and insignificant in a vast universe. It's quite another to suspect that your consciousness might be actively involved in making that universe larger and more incomprehensible every moment. Sharing the vertigo. I want to know how your brain is handling this information right now. Are you feeling that subtle anxiety that comes with trying to grasp these concepts? That slight dizziness when you attempt to visualize expansion without containers? Comment below with one word that describes how you're feeling right now after contemplating universe expansion. Don't overthink it, just the first emotional word that comes to mind. Let's create a real-time map of how human consciousness responds to cosmic truth. I read every comment, and seeing this collective response to infinity always gives me chills. The holographic principle, when dimensions betray us. Recent developments in theoretical physics have introduced another mind-bending possibility that makes the expansion question even more psychologically complex. The holographic principle suggests that all the information in a three-dimensional space can be encoded on its two-dimensional boundary. In simpler terms, we might be living in a cosmic hologram. If the holographic principle is correct, then the expansion of the universe takes on an entirely different character. We're not just asking what three-dimensional space is expanding into, we're asking what the two-dimensional information that creates the illusion of three-dimensional space is expanding into. The question becomes recursive, fractal, infinitely complex. The psychological impact of potentially living in a hologram cannot be understated. Every human experience of depth, distance, and spatial relationships might be elaborate illusions created by information encoded on a distant cosmic boundary. The expansion we observe might not even be real. In any meaningful sense, it might be a projection, a shadow cast by processes occurring in dimensions we cannot perceive. This introduces what psychologists might call reality dissociation disorder. The profound uncertainty about whether our experiences correspond to actual existence. If we're holograms contemplating holographic expansion, what does the question, expanding into what, even mean? The holographic principle also suggests that the universe might be fundamentally information-based rather than matter-based. We're not physical beings in a physical universe expanding into nothing, we're information patterns in an information structure expanding into, what? More information? The absence of information? The question multiplies rather than resolving. String theory, when dimensions hide from us. String theory attempts to unify our understanding of cosmic forces by proposing that reality consists of tiny vibrating strings existing in multiple dimensions, far more dimensions than the three spatial dimensions we experience. Most of these dimensions are curled up, so small that we cannot detect them directly. If string theory is correct, the expansion of our observable universe might be occurring within a larger dimensional framework that we cannot access or comprehend. The universe might be expanding into dimensions that exist all around us but remain forever invisible and incomprehensible to three-dimensional beings like ourselves. This creates a unique form of claustrophobia. We might be trapped in a subset of reality, while true existence occurs in dimensions we cannot even imagine. The expansion we observe could be like the shadow of a much larger and more complex process occurring in hyperspace. The psychological implications are profound. We might be like flatland beings living on a piece of paper, trying to understand why our two-dimensional world is getting larger while remaining completely unaware of the three-dimensional room in which the paper exists. The answer to our expansion question might be all around us, literally interpenetrating our existence, while remaining completely inaccessible to our limited dimensional awareness. String theory also introduces the possibility that what we perceive as expansion might actually be the universe moving through higher dimensional space rather than space itself expanding. We could be like passengers on a ship, mistaking our movement through the ocean for the ocean itself growing larger. The information paradox, when expansion deletes reality. One of the most disturbing aspects of cosmic expansion involves what happens to information over vast periods of time. As the universe expands and accelerates, distances between objects become so vast that information cannot travel between them. Light from distant galaxies will eventually be stretched to wavelengths so long that they become undetectable. This creates what physicists call the information paradox. If expansion continues indefinitely, eventually all information about the early universe will be lost forever. Future civilizations will live in a cosmos where the evidence of cosmic expansion itself has been expanded away beyond detection. The psychological horror of this scenario is subtle but profound. We are living in a brief moment of cosmic history when the universe's expansion is detectable. In the deep future, beings like us will look into space and see nothing but darkness, with no way to determine that their universe is expanding or that other galaxies ever existed. We are essentially witnesses to a cosmic crime in progress, the gradual erasure of reality itself through expansion. Every moment that passes, information is being permanently deleted from the universe as space carries it beyond the reach of any possible observer. This temporal aspect of expansion adds urgency to our contemplation of these questions. We're not just asking what the universe is expanding into. We're asking it during the brief window when the question is still answerable. The expansion is simultaneously providing us with evidence of its existence and working to erase that evidence forever. The heat-death hypothesis. When expansion ends everything. The acceleration of cosmic expansion leads to several possible futures, most of which are psychologically devastating to contemplate. The most likely scenario, given current observations, is heat-death, a future in which expansion has spread energy so thin across space that no meaningful processes can occur. In this scenario, the universe doesn't expand into nothing, it expands until it becomes indistinguishable from nothing. All stars will burn out, all black holes will evaporate through Hawking radiation, and all matter will decay until only isolated particles exist in a vast, cold emptiness. The psychological weight of this future is crushing. Everything we care about, everything we've built, every thought and feeling and creative work, will not just end but will be erased so completely that it might as well have never existed. The expansion isn't just moving us away from each other in space, it's moving us toward a future in which the very concept of us becomes meaningless. Yet there's a strange comfort in heat-death as well. If the universe is expanding toward ultimate entropy, then our current moment of complexity and consciousness becomes incredibly precious. We exist during a brief, improbable interval when the expansion has created just the right conditions for stars, planets, life, and awareness to emerge. The expansion question takes on new meaning in this context. We're not just asking what space is expanding into, we're asking what meaning is expanding into as consciousness spreads through the cosmos during its brief window of possibility. The meaning makers. This is getting heavy, and I want to know how you're processing not just the science, but the emotional weight of these concepts. In the comments, tell me, Does knowing that the universe is expanding toward heat death make your current moment feel more precious or more pointless? Are you someone who finds meaning in temporary beauty, or do you need permanence to feel that life has purpose? There's no right answer, but I'm fascinated by how different minds cope with cosmic impermanence. Your perspective might help someone else who's struggling with these same questions. The anthropic principle, when expansion becomes personal. The anthropic principle suggests that the universe's properties, including its expansion rate, are fine-tuned to allow for the existence of conscious observers like ourselves. If expansion were slightly faster or slower, stars wouldn't form, planets wouldn't develop, and consciousness wouldn't emerge. This introduces a deeply personal dimension to the expansion question. We're not just asking what the universe is expanding into, we're asking why it's expanding at exactly the right rate to create beings capable of asking that question. The expansion becomes self-referential, almost circular. The psychological implications are profound. Either we exist because of an incredible cosmic coincidence, or the universe is somehow designed to produce consciousness, or we're one of countless failed experiments in a multiverse where most versions of reality remain forever empty of awareness. Each possibility carries its own psychological burden. Cosmic coincidence makes us feel impossibly lucky but ultimately random. Designed consciousness suggests purpose but raises questions about the designer. Multiverse selection makes us feel special but temporary, meaningful but replaceable. The anthropic principle also suggests that our ability to contemplate expansion might be the reason expansion exists in the first place. We might be the universe's way of thinking about itself, of questioning its own growth and development. The expansion isn't expanding into nothing, it's expanding into consciousness, into awareness, into the capacity for self-reflection. Consciousness and cosmology, when minds meet infinity. The relationship between consciousness and cosmic expansion represents one of the deepest puzzles in both neuroscience and physics. How does a brain evolved to navigate African savannas develop the capacity to contemplate universal expansion? What does it mean that matter organized into neural networks can ask questions about the expansion of the space in which that matter exists? Consciousness might be the universe's most successful response to its own expansion. As space grows larger and emptier, complex structures like brains emerge that can compress vast amounts of information about cosmic processes into incredibly small spaces. Every human mind contains models of galactic motion, stellar evolution, and space-time geometry. We are expansion contemplating itself, infinity attempting to understand its own nature through finite neural processes. The question, what is the universe expanding into? Might be the universe asking itself about its own growth through the medium of conscious beings. This perspective transforms the psychological burden of cosmic expansion into something approaching spiritual significance. We're not just random observers of an incomprehensible process, we're the process becoming aware of itself, space developing the capacity for self-reflection. The expansion creates the conditions for consciousness, and consciousness creates the concepts needed to understand expansion. It's a cosmic feedback loop where the universe literally grows its own capacity for self-understanding through beings like us. The edge of knowledge, when science becomes philosophy. As we push against the boundaries of what can be known about cosmic expansion, we encounter the limits of the scientific method itself. There might be aspects of expansion that are fundamentally unknowable, not because our instruments aren't sensitive enough, but because the questions themselves transcend the categories of human thought. What does it mean to ask what the universe is expanding into when the concept of into might not apply to reality at scales larger than human experience? We might be asking a question that contains hidden assumptions about the nature of space, time, and existence that are simply wrong. The psychological challenge becomes learning to live with unanswerable questions rather than finding answers to impossible problems. This requires a fundamental shift in how we relate to mystery and uncertainty. Instead of seeing the unknowable as a problem to be solved, we might need to recognize it as an essential feature of reality. Some physicists and philosophers argue that the expansion question is like asking, "What color is Wednesday?" It appears to be a meaningful question but actually represents a category error in thinking. The universe might not be expanding into anything because into is a concept that only applies within the universe, not to the universe as a whole. This doesn't resolve the psychological tension so much as transform it. Instead of being frustrated by unanswerable questions, we can find meaning in being the kind of beings capable of asking questions that transcend our own cognitive limitations. The paradox of scale, when big becomes small. One of the most psychologically disorienting aspects of cosmic expansion involves the reversal of our normal scale relationships. From our perspective, the universe is unimaginably vast and growing larger every moment. But from a hypothetical external perspective, if such a thing could exist, our expanding universe might be infinitesimally small. Consider the possibility that our entire cosmos, with all its galaxies and dark energy and accelerating expansion, might be equivalent to a single quantum particle in some larger reality. The expansion we observe over billions of years might correspond to microscopic vibrations occurring over tiny fractions of time in a higher-order existence. This scale paradox creates what psychologists might call existential vertigo, the dizzy realization that our sense of size and importance might be completely arbitrary. We think of expansion as this cosmic process involving unimaginable distances and energies, but it might be happening on a scale so small that larger beings would need incredibly sensitive instruments just to detect it. The psychological impact cuts both ways. On one hand, it's humbling to realize that our cosmic drama might be playing out on submicroscopic scales in some larger reality. On the other hand, it suggests that even the smallest events in our world might contain entire universes with their own expansion questions and conscious observers. Every particle decay in a laboratory might involve the birth and death of countless civilizations. Every quantum fluctuation might represent cosmic epochs of expansion and evolution. The question, "What is the universe expanding into?" becomes recursive. We might be expanding into the same kind of existence that smaller universes are expanding into within our own atoms. The global mind. We're approaching the end of this journey together, and I want to create something meaningful from our shared contemplation of these impossible questions. In the comments below, complete this sentence. After thinking deeply about universal expansion, I realize. Don't worry about being profound or scientifically accurate. Just share whatever genuine realization or feeling has emerged from wrestling with these concepts. Whether it's confusion, wonder, fear, acceptance, or something entirely different, your perspective adds to humanity's collective attempt to understand our place in an expanding cosmos. Reading through these responses always reminds me that we're not just individual minds struggling with cosmic questions, we're part of a global consciousness emerging from billions of years of universal expansion. In a very real sense, we are the universe developing self-awareness through countless interconnected minds. The psychological resolution, embracing cosmic uncertainty. After exploring the depths of cosmic expansion and its psychological implications, we arrive at a paradoxical conclusion. The question, "What is the universe expanding into?" might be unanswerable not because we lack information, but because it represents a fundamental limit of consciousness itself. We are three-dimensional beings embedded in four-dimensional space-time, trying to understand processes that might require 5, 10, or infinite dimensions to comprehend fully. Our brains evolved to navigate local environments with clear boundaries and containers, yet we're attempting to grasp boundaryless expansion and containerless growth. The psychological healthy response might not be to solve this question but to develop comfort with cosmic mystery. This requires a maturation of consciousness. Learning to find meaning and purpose while acknowledging the fundamental limits of understanding. The expansion of the universe creates the space for consciousness to emerge, and consciousness creates the questions that push against the boundaries of comprehension. We exist in the productive tension between knowing and unknowing, between cosmic insignificance and existential purpose. The meta-expansion, when questions expand understanding. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of contemplating cosmic expansion is how the question itself expands our capacity for wonder and humility. Every time we seriously ask, "What is the universe expanding into?" we stretch our minds beyond their comfortable limitations. The question is expanding our consciousness in the same way that dark energy is expanding space. We might not be able to answer what the universe is expanding into, but we can observe what the question is expanding into. Deeper appreciation for mystery, greater comfort with uncertainty, and enhanced capacity for cosmic perspective. The expansion question transforms us even when it doesn't provide answers. This transformation has practical psychological benefits. People who regularly contemplate cosmic questions report increased resilience in facing personal challenges, enhanced appreciation for temporary beauty, and reduced anxiety about problems that seem overwhelming until viewed against cosmic scales. The universe's expansion reminds us that change, growth, and movement into unknown territories are fundamental features of reality. Our personal lives mirror cosmic processes. We're all expanding into uncertain futures, growing beyond our previous boundaries, exploring territories we didn't know existed. The collective journey, humanity's expanding awareness. Throughout this exploration, we've seen how cosmic expansion questions affect individual psychology. But there's also a collective dimension. Humanity as a whole is expanding its awareness of cosmic reality, pushing into conceptual territories that no previous generation could access. We live at a unique moment in cosmic history when expansion has created just the right conditions for consciousness to emerge and develop technology capable of detecting its own cosmic context. We're the first generation to know with certainty that we live in an expanding universe, and we might be among the last to detect the evidence of that expansion before it carries information beyond our observational reach. This places us in a special position of cosmic responsibility. We're not just asking what the universe is expanding into, we're expanding into the role of cosmic consciousness itself. Through our collective scientific, philosophical, and artistic efforts, we're becoming the universe's way of understanding its own expansion. Every time someone contemplates these questions, shares their confusion or wonder, or pushes against the boundaries of comprehension, they contribute to humanity's expanding awareness of cosmic reality. The question, "What is the universe expanding into?" becomes a collaborative exploration involving millions of minds across the globe. The infinite perspective, when expansion becomes everything. As we conclude this psychological journey through cosmic expansion, we arrive at a profound realization. The question, "What is the universe expanding into?" might be the wrong question entirely. Perhaps we should ask, "What is expansion?" Expansion might not be something the universe does. Expansion might be what the universe is. Space, time, matter, energy, consciousness, and experience might all be different aspects of a single cosmic expansion process. We're not observers of expansion looking for something it's expanding into. We are expansion, manifesting as temporary patterns of organization within an eternally creative cosmic process. This perspective dissolves the psychological anxiety around expansion into nothing. We're not expanding into nothing, we are the expansion of nothing into something, the eternal process of possibility becoming actuality. The expansion doesn't need somewhere to go because expansion itself is the creation of somewhere, from nowhere. Every thought you think, every relationship you form, every creative work you produce, every moment of love or wonder or curiosity is the universe expanding into new forms of complexity and awareness. The question, what is the universe expanding into, becomes, what are we expanding into? And the answer is, everything we're capable of becoming. The personal universe, your role in cosmic expansion. This brings us to the most important psychological insight of our journey. You are not separate from the cosmic expansion. You are cosmic expansion manifesting as human consciousness. Every time you learn something new, form a deeper relationship, create something beautiful, or push beyond your previous limitations, you participate directly in the universe's expansion into greater complexity and awareness. The anxiety many people feel about cosmic expansion often stems from seeing themselves as small, temporary beings trapped in an incomprehensibly vast and growing universe. But the reality might be exactly the opposite. You might be the local manifestation of the same creative force that expands galaxies and generates dark energy. When you contemplate cosmic expansion and feel that mixture of wonder, confusion, and vertigo, you're experiencing the universe discovering itself through your consciousness. The expansion isn't happening to you, it's happening as you, through you, because of beings like you developing the capacity to ask impossible questions and find meaning in uncertainty. Your personal growth, emotional development, creative expression, and intellectual curiosity are all forms of cosmic expansion. Every time you expand your understanding, develop greater compassion, or increase your capacity for wonder, you contribute to the universe's expansion into higher forms of organization and awareness. The eternal question, expansion as sacred mystery. We end where we began, with a question that transforms rather than answers, expands rather than resolves. What is the universe expanding into? Might be what philosophers call a sacred question, one whose value lies not in its solution but in how it changes us through the asking. Sacred questions expand our consciousness, deepen our appreciation for mystery, and connect us to processes larger than individual existence. They remind us that reality is far stranger and more wonderful than our everyday experience suggests, and that consciousness is capable of contemplating concepts that transcend its own limitations. The universe might be expanding into itself, creating more space for consciousness to emerge and ask deeper questions about the nature of existence. Each generation of conscious beings pushes further into cosmic mystery, expanding the universe's self-awareness through their collective inquiry and wonder. Perhaps the most psychologically healthy response to cosmic expansion is not to solve the mystery but to let the mystery solve us, to allow our contemplation of infinite questions to expand our capacity for wonder, humility, and connection to the cosmic process of which we are both products and participants. The universe is expanding, consciousness is expanding, and through our shared exploration of impossible questions, understanding itself is expanding. We may never know what the universe is expanding into, but we can know that we are part of whatever cosmic expansion ultimately is and means. In the end, we are not just observers asking what the universe is expanding into. We are the universe expanding into the capacity to ask that question, and that might be the most beautiful and mysterious thing of all. Thank you for taking this mind-expanding journey with me. If these ideas have stirred something in you, whether wonder, confusion, anxiety, or inspiration, please share this video with someone else who enjoys having their reality gently destroyed and rebuilt by cosmic questions. Subscribe if you want to explore more impossible questions that expand consciousness while breaking brains, and remember to check the comments below. There's always something beautiful happening when minds from around the world come together to contemplate the deepest mysteries of existence. The universe is expanding, your awareness is expanding, and together we're expanding into whatever cosmic consciousness is capable of becoming. Until next time, keep questioning everything, especially the questions that don't have answers.